Characters are obviously one of the biggest and most important factors in whether a gacha game is successful or not. And I'm not talking just about the design. Instead, I'm talking about their personality, the story they have, the relationships and friends they have, and what faction they're a part of. Now, some people may summon just for design, and if you are an individual who does that, perfectly fine. That's great. I hope you enjoy the characters you have. But if you're somebody who likes lore, if you're somebody who likes story, then in Honkai Star Rail, there is one character who absolutely, as of right now, has the worst story and characterization as of yet. Kafka. Now, it's a close tie. Kafka and Blade are arguably the exact same level in terms of bad characterization, but I'm going to be blunt, Kafka's been on screen for far more, and as a result, I can tell you for sure, she has had absolutely nothing done with her as a character. Now, for those of you who are going to say, oh yeah, well, she's not out yet, well, consider this, Silverwolf is out now, and I'm going to be honest, she also hasn't had much characterization. But she's also arguably had less of an impact on the story. But if this is the case, why are they bad characters? What makes them bad? Well, I'm not going to compare this to Genshin Impact, although I could, and I can rant about that all day. Kafka has about 3 issues. One is community-based, the other 2 are in the game itself. The first is how she's portrayed in the story. She's the first character you're shown on screen when you start up the game. And that is an incredibly important role to have, because if it's not the character you're playing as, you don't start out in their shoes. Instead, you're meeting this character who you have now additional context that your actual character does not have, which sort of desynchronizes the entirety of you learning as your character would, because now you have more information than your character does. But that's the beginning of the game. You're not supposed to know a lot about the characters at that point. So let's move on to later on. Let's talk about her and how she's developed since then. She hasn't. Kafka faces off with not only the first character you're introduced to, but subsequently being bound and tied to so many other individuals that are important to the plot. And no, I'm not talking about Blade. No, I'm not talking about Silverwolf. I'm instead talking about Elia, the individual or thing that can predict the future. Because Kafka is inherently tied to this, and because one of the first things we learned about her is that she's connected to this, it makes it incredibly difficult to organize and talk about her without mentioning Elio as a result. And subsequently, it also makes it difficult to trust her. And I understand, yes, a character can be mysterious, they can be brooded, they can have those secrets, and that is perfectly fine. But the issue is, every time Kafka has been on screen, it is correlated with Elio. You don't know a single thing about her as an entity. And even when she comes out, how much of the information is still going to be locked behind the concept of, oh yeah, Elio did this, or oh yeah, this is a personality or a part of me that is designated to be said via Elio. When you introduce something that sees the future and needs a specific outcome to happen, and you have your characters, or characters we have yet to meet who learn about this and already know about it, it introduces so many new issues where you can't trust this character, where you don't know what is this character, and it takes away so many different stakes as a result. And what about the third issue? Well, I'm going to be blunt here. Kafka is not a character. Kafka is just red discount Yalan. She is pulled because she's hot, not pulled because she has legitimate characterization in the story. I made this in a previous video, but let me compare the two. Yalan, before she was introduced, was hinted at in the Chasm questline. When she was officially introduced, she had a questline with Zhao, Yanfei, Kuki Shinobu, and Ito. It is still to this day one of the best quests in the game. She was also introduced with a massive event that was amazing to participate in. She released with a character quest that was pretty good, and she's been involved in every Lantern Rite or every major Liyue event since then. Her outfit has lore, she as a character has lore, and it's not just about her currently, it's about her past and the individuals she correlates to, whether that be Ningguang or Beta, somebody like Ganyu or Xiao, and her entire backstory is elaborated on and directly impacts the story in that moment. And I know individuals are going to say, well, Yalan's been out longer, so theoretically speaking, she's had much more time to develop as a character. And you're right. But let's take all of that out of the context and let's instead just focus on when she released. When she released, she was introduced prior to the story and hinted at during cutscenes and during gameplay, especially in the Chasm quest. And when she actually came to launch, during her first banner, she was paired with Xiao. She had an event featuring him with Ito, Yanfei, Kuki Shinobu, and everybody else who just mentioned. Her backstory and her relationships with the characters in that scene and in the entire region she was in were elaborated on, not by her. She didn't exposition dump to you. She did not elaborate in the slightest. Instead, other characters told you why she acted the way she did. And you had about an hour-long quest with her just learning about her as an individual and why she's treating this specific situation the way she is. And it wasn't just her, it was her family. Here's individuals that tie into this. And I know I wasn't going to compare it to Genshin, but she's the closest comparison because she's a direct copy, but worse, of Yalan. Kafka is releasing next patch, which is in live streams happening in a couple days based on the time I'm recording this video. And she has had so much less impact on the story because she's inherently tied to a future predicting individual. And the entire characterization thus far is pulled because she's hot. And I'm gonna be honest, she's just mid, 5 out of 10. Her eyes remind me of a fish. What is this? She's supposed to be a spider? In what way? Her entire personality is domination. Legitimately, one of her abilities is where she dominates your team. What characterization is in this? Do you see any meaningful interactions with Silverwolf? Because we have Silverwolf in the game right now. Are you expecting anything? She could have had a major impact on the second or third area we went to. I don't know whether we're counting her to space station or not, so I'm going to say third in case we are counting it. But with Jing Yuan, Yan Qing, and everybody else being featured there, that could have been a nice opportunity to see her interact with other characters. And instead, we got nothing. We got her being wanted, her appearing, being mysterious. Ooh, you need to do this. And yeah, I know there's a lot more to it, but realistically, what do you know about her as an individual? And not necessarily what have you read, I'm talking about what has been legitimately displayed to us. Because I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of the main character. What have we learned? And we haven't learned anything. I played this game since launch and I've learned a grand total of fuck and all. And yet she's going to be simped over. She's going to be touted as being a great character because she looks hot to some people for some reason because you have bad taste. I'm going to be honest, if you're talking about design, Silverwolf is better. If you're talking about design, anyone's better. Clara's better. Clara actually has a story. She's correlated with Svarog. She meets other characters. You see those interactions in game. You have texts, which are the most adorable thing. And my god, the Clara texts are amazing. I love them. And she's actually a good unit. And her light cone is super cute. You have Yan Qing, who characters from the same area as him actually have dialogue about him. He has a correlation and relationship with Jing Yuan and Fu Xuan. You had Celia, a limited character who has a relationship with Brondia, was elaborated on in the story, and that was, even though it was surface level development, it was still there. You have Jing Yuan, who maybe hasn't had the biggest impact on the story or the characters around him, but he is mentioned by them in voice lines. He is an important character and figure in Yan Qing's life. He's even featured on Yan Qing's light cone. You see the environment and react to just him being there. Fu Xuan connects with him, so you know he's going to have a bigger impact later on, especially as we finish out the story for this area. And even Locha, an individual who I don't even like, has had bigger impacts in Dan Hung's story. So I legitimately want to know, why is Kafka at this position to where, yes, her and Blade are releasing, but neither one of them are characters. Blade is just the definition of edge. Like, Blade is what people would think Xiao acts like. Blade isn't the character, he's just edge, but he's not even like edge in a good way. He's edgy in like that 13-year-old high schooler where all they wear is black and all they listen to and talk about is depressing concepts and violence. And that's it. Like, it's not edge in a way that makes sense or is like deserved. It's edge in a way that just sounds cringy. Kafka is somebody trying way too hard to be dominant and failing miserably, but having strings and being red makes people think, yeah, you know what, she's kinda hot. But I'm gonna be honest, half of y'all who like her have bad taste, the other half who like her also have bad taste. And are just in denial about it. But I'm gonna be blunt here, Honkai Star Rail has bad characterization in general. My god, what is this game? Riding off the back of Honkai Impact at third, everybody keeps talking about, oh yeah, how good the story is in that game. And then you come here and you're like, yeah, every character is surface level. Bronya's mom died in front of her, and the story didn't even really address it. It just moved on like, well, that happened, you guys. And I don't think anyone can really justify by saying she was evil. I don't give a damn. The bitch could have been as evil as she wanted to be. It doesn't fucking matter. Bronya just watched her mom die, and the story moved on like, well, and? And then you had what? This stupid, half-baked friendship between her and Zealot? What was that? Was that literally just for the shipping community? Because honestly, it was undeserved. There was a setup conflict to where Bronya didn't necessarily understand what life was like in the underworld. And outside of that, can we please talk about Zealot's outfit, how it makes no absolute sense in the slightest. Hook's outfit makes sense. It is dark, it is very bland, it isn't colorful. Maybe how you have Rainbow Zealot out here for no reason. But the story set up a conflict between Bronya and Zealot where they didn't necessarily get along because they were entirely different lifestyles. And then it had the fake orphanage, like, oh, you know, we kind of grew up in the same place. And then that just resolved everything? That didn't resolve anything. It didn't fix anything. What is the point? The story introduced 80 different characters and elaborated on none of them. Can you tell me anything about Arlen besides he takes care of the dog and likes Asta? Like, I legitimately wanted to know. And yeah, Himeko is, technically speaking, a callback to Honkai Impact. That doesn't make her a good character. Same thing with Welt. If a character is similar in design or personality to somebody else from a different game produced by the same studio, they automatically should be held at a higher standard because now you have to carry along that character's personality, the reputation they have. And as of right now, HoYoverse has dropped the ball on every single one of these. If I go any longer, I'm gonna rant and ramble. Bailu's cute. Clara is the best character in the game. My god, she has such good art. And I'm not talking about safe org art. Play the game if you want. Silverwolf is hot. I'll see you next time.